Okay, so you know how sometimes you kind of look around and you're like, is this the right situation for me?
Yeah, all the time. I think everyone does, right?
Well, I think particularly in relationships, it can get really, really messy.
Yeah.
Figuring out what's good for you.
Yeah.
And so I thought for today's deep dive, it'd be really cool to talk about how do you know if your relationship is actually right for you?
Okay. Yeah.
And how to spot those signs when it's really not good for you.
Yeah. I think that's huge. And I mean, it's one of those things that's so personal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like what's right for one person might not be right for another.
Exactly.
You know, so it's not like we can just have like a checklist
Right.
and say like, oh, if you have these 10 things, then you're good.
Right. Yeah.
So I think we can definitely talk about some indicators.
Yeah, definitely.
And some things that are good to look for. And then also some red flags too.
All right. That makes a lot of sense. So why don't we just jump right in then and start with what are some of the signs of a healthy relationship?
Okay, yeah. So I think one of the biggest ones is mutual respect and admiration.
Oh, yeah.
So this goes beyond just like that initial attraction or like, you know, being in love with someone. It's really about valuing them for who they are as a person.
Okay.
Their thoughts, their feelings, everything. Even when maybe you don't agree.
I see.
Can you articulate what you appreciate about them beyond just like, oh, I love their eyes or whatever, you know?
Yeah. So you're really liking them for...
You genuinely like them as a person.
Yeah. Okay. That's so important.
Yeah. I think it's huge.
And that sort of leads into this idea of trust.
Yes.
You know, we hear that all the time, but it really feels like the bedrock of a good relationship.
It is. It's the foundation. It's everything, you know? And it's also not just one thing.
Right.
It's so many things, you know?
Like what?
It's honesty, reliability, fidelity, you know, being faithful to each other, finances even.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Like, how do you navigate your money together?
Okay.
I think if you have a partner who's trustworthy, their actions are predictable in good ways. You know what I mean?
Right.
You feel secure that they're going to show up, not just, you know, in terms of being faithful to you romantically, but just in general. They're going to do what they say they're going to do.
Yeah.
You can really count on them.
So it sort of enables you to actually be more vulnerable?
Yes, absolutely. It's that feeling of safety.
Okay.
You know, that you can show your imperfections and your messiness and all of that, and you're not going to be rejected.
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah.
Especially if you want a relationship that's going to last.
Right, exactly. And I think the research shows this too.
Yeah.
That the couples who are really thriving over the long term, one of the key things is that they are able to be vulnerable with each other.
Oh, I see.
And that only comes when you have that sense of safety and trust.
So that makes sense. And then, of course, you need to be able to actually communicate with each other.
Communicate. Yes.
Which is like, you know, it sounds obvious, but...
Well, it does, but it's not always easy.
Yeah.
You know? And it's not just about talking. It's a two-way street.
Right.
It's about being able to express yourself, being honest, even when it's hard.
Yeah.
You know, even if you think the other person's not going to like it or you think you're going to have a fight.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
But then it's also being able to really listen and not just listen to respond, but listen to actually understand like what's going on for your partner.
Oh, that's so hard though.
It is hard. But, you know, it can really make a difference, like in terms of resolving conflicts and stuff.
Yeah, no, for sure.
There's this technique called active listening, where you basically just repeat back to the other person what you've heard. And it sounds so simple, but it really does help to make sure that you're on the same page and avoid those misunderstandings.
I see. Yeah. Okay, so we've got respect, trust, communication.
Yeah.
I feel like commitment is a big one too.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, commitment is huge.
You know, like that feeling that we're in it for the long haul.
Yeah, that we're a team.
We're going to weather the storms together.
Yeah. I think when you have that feeling that your partner is really invested in the future of the relationship, that's a really positive sign.
Yeah.
And when you both have that commitment, that mutual commitment, that's the fuel, you know?
I see.
That helps you get through the tough stuff.
Okay, so that commitment, does that kind of lead into kindness then?
Yeah.
Do you think?
I think so, because you know if you're really committed to someone, you're going to treat them with kindness. Even when things are hard, you know?
Right.
Even when you're having a disagreement.
Right.
It's about caring for them, you know, supporting them, listening to them.
About feeling safe.
Yes, emotional safety. That's so important.
Okay.
And kindness is not just like grand gestures. It can be small things, you know?
Yeah.
Like a hug or a thoughtful note or just, making them a cup of tea when they're stressed.
Right.
All of that stuff adds up.
So if you're thinking about your relationship and thinking about, is this right for me?
Yeah.
One of the things you can ask yourself is, do we actually enjoy each other?
Yeah. Do you have fun together?
Do we have fun together? Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually important.
Right. Like, obviously, you need to have your own interests,
Sure.
your own space.
Of course.
But you should really enjoy spending time with each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yes.
do you look forward to seeing them? Do you get excited to do things together?
Yeah. Or you kind of relieved when
Right.
when they're not there.
Exactly. Yeah. And, studies have shown that couples who actually make an effort to have fun together, to have shared leisure activities, they tend to be a lot happier.
That makes sense.
So I think that's something important to keep in mind.
Okay. So then kind of going back to the space thing, do you think that it's important for your partner to support your goals, even if they're different from?
Yes, 1,000%.
Well,
It's like,
thank you.
you're not trying to become one person, right?
Right.
You're two individuals who are choosing to be together.
Right.
And so it's really important that you support each other's dreams and passions, even if they're not exactly the same as yours.
So I should feel encouraged to,
Yes.
to pursue what's important to
When
me.
celebrated.
Yeah, celebrate it, even if it's different
Yes, exactly.
from what my partner's doing. Okay. And how about decisions?
Oh, yeah, decisions. That's a big one.
Like, in a healthy relationship, how are decisions?
Well, I think they're made collaboratively. It's not one person dictating to the other.
Right. Okay.
It's about working together, listening to each other,
Yeah.
trying to come up with solutions that work for both of you.
Okay.
And that can be anything from like, what are we having for dinner? To, where do we want to live?
Right.
Big decisions, small decisions, all of it.
Oh, okay. So what about friends and family?
Oh, interesting.
Like, obviously your opinion is the most important,
Of course. Yeah.
but do you think it's helpful to see what other people...
I think so. I think it can be.
Think about the relationship.
I don't think it should be the deciding factor.
Right.
But I do think it's worth paying attention to. Like, if all of your friends and family are like, I don't know about this person.
I don't know about this person.
It's probably something to look at,
Right. Yeah.
Because they have a different perspective, right? They're not in the middle of it. They can maybe see things a little bit more objectively.
Okay. So in general, what are some of the feelings
Yeah.
that should be present in a healthy relationship?
Well, I think you should feel good, Like, you should feel supported. You should feel cared for. Like, true love, real love, healthy love. It should make you feel safe, secure, not anxious all the time.
Right.
Like, not like you're walking on eggshells.
Okay, cool.
Peaceful, yeah. Empowered, even. Like, you can be yourself and you're going to be accepted.
Okay. So then values, shared values.
Yeah.
That's a big
What
one.
important are those?
I think they're really important, especially if you're thinking long term,
Right?
because values are those deep down beliefs, right? About life, about family, about the world. And if you're aligned on those,
Then it's going to be a lot easier to navigate
Right.
the bigger challenges that come up in life.
Okay.
Because you're going to be coming at it from the same perspective,
so that makes sense. And what about vision for the future?
Yeah, that's another big one.
Like, how important is it to
Very important.
be on the same page about?
I think it's essential, because if you want completely different things, that's going to create conflict down the line.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's good to talk about those things early on. Like, where do you see yourself in 5 years, 10
Yeah.
years? Do you want to have kids? Do you not want to have kids?
Right.
All of that stuff.
Okay. And then just to be comprehensive, we got to talk about
Oh, yeah, the fun
the
stuff.
fun stuff, intimacy.
Intimacy, yes. So I think it's important for both people to feel satisfied, right?
Right.
Both emotionally and physically.
Yeah.
And, that can look different for different couples.
Right.
But I think it's important to have open communication about it and to make sure that everyone's needs are being met.
Okay. And I know we said earlier that conflict is inevitable
Right. It's no too.
in any relationship. So how do you know if you're handling it well?
That's a good question. Well, I think it's about how you fight, not whether you fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So can you have a disagreement without being disrespectful, without attacking each other?
Right.
Can you listen to each other's perspectives, even if you don't agree?
I see.
And can you come to some sort of resolution, even if it's just agreeing to disagree?
So we can find a compromise?
A compromise, yeah. Or just, saying, okay, we see things differently, but we still love each other.
Okay. So then what about forgiveness?
Forgiveness, that's huge.
How important is that?
I think it's essential because everyone makes mistakes, right?
All right.
And if you can't forgive each other, those hurts are just going to build up over time, and it's going to poison the relationship.
It's going to poison the relationship. Okay.
Yeah.
So, people change, relationships evolve.
They do.
How much do you think adaptability
A lot, I think, is really important.
matters in a relationship?
Because life throws you curveballs, you know?
Right.
Things happen. You change. Your partner changes. Your circumstances change.
Right.
And you have to be able to adapt to that.
Okay. That makes sense.
If you're rigid and inflexible,
Yeah.
the relationship is probably not going to last.
So you have to be able to roll with
Roll with the punches, yeah.
the punches.
Yeah.
Okay. So even though we're adapting and changing and all that, how important is it to maintain your own
Oh, so important.
sense of individuality?
So important. You don't want to lose yourself in the relationship, right?
Right.
It's great to be close to someone and to share your life with them, but you also want to be your own person.
Have your own interests, your own friends, your own goals.
Okay.
I think that's really important for both people.
So it's like a balance, right?
Balance. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Interdependence. That's the word.
Interdependence. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think as people change and evolve, it's good to stay curious about each other.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Keep that spark alive,
Yeah.
right? Like ask questions, be interested in what they're thinking, what they're feeling,
Right.
what they're learning.
Okay. So even though we're curious and we're, together and all that,
Yeah.
how important is it to also be able to spend time apart?
Very important. Very, very important.
Really?
Yeah. Like, everyone needs their space. It's healthy to have some time to yourself to do your own thing,
Okay.
to recharge.
Okay.
And it also makes the time that you do spend together more special.
More special.
Yeah.
Okay. And then this is kind of a fun one, but I think playfulness is so important. Yes, fun is important.
Like, just being able to not take everything so seriously.
Yeah, laugh together.
Yeah, laugh together.
Be silly. Life's too short to be serious all the time.
So true. So true.
Yeah.
And then finally, that feeling of, like being able to completely be yourself.
Yeah, like your full self.
Yeah, goblin mode.
Goblin mode.
Like, not having to
not having to be
be
perfect.
perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, being able to just let your guard down.
Yeah.
Relax, be vulnerable. I think that's where true intimacy comes in.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, we've talked about a lot of the good stuff.
Yeah, we have.
Let's get to the not so good stuff.
Okay, yeah.
What are some red flags that maybe this relationship is not so healthy for you?
Okay, so I think one of the biggest red flags is any kind of abuse or manipulation. And that includes physical, emotional, psychological, sexual, financial, all of it.
Yeah.
Gaslighting is a big one too, where someone tries to make you doubt your own reality.
Yeah. Even just one instance of that is too many.
Absolutely. One time is too many.
Okay, so another one is that sense of control, right?
Yes, control, trying to change the other person. You can't change someone,
Right.
They have to want to change themselves.
Yeah, and you should
accept them.
accept them for who.
For who they are, exactly.
Okay, so what about boundaries?
Boundaries, yes.
If your partner disrespects your boundaries,
Big red flag.
that's a big red flag.
Yeah, because boundaries are important. They're how you protect yourself,
Right.
emotionally, physically, mentally.
So whether it's like time boundaries?
Yeah, time boundaries, physical boundaries, emotional boundaries, all of it.
Okay, so then what if you're just spending less and less time together?
Yeah, that can be a red flag too.
And that could be either physical distance or emotional distance.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, exactly. Like, are you making excuses to not see each other? Are you relieved when you're apart?
Okay.
Those are not good signs.
Okay, what if the relationship feels unequal?
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Like one person's always putting in more effort.
Yeah, like it's one-sided.
Yeah.
That can lead to resentment over time.
So it should feel balanced.
Balanced, yeah.
Okay, how about communication style?
Oh, yeah. Communication is huge.
So are there any red flags in terms of...
Yeah, like constant criticism is a big one.
Okay.
Put downs, sarcasm, negativity, all of that stuff.
So even if it's like just kind of joking put downs?
It depends on the context, you know?
Right.
But if it's constant and it's making you feel bad, that's not good.
Okay. And what about if you just feel like you're not being heard?
Yeah, feeling unheard, that's a big one.
Like your partner's not.
Right, like they're not really listening.
Really listen.
Yeah, they're dismissive. They don't remember what you say. They don't seem interested.
Okay.
That's a problem.
And what if you're afraid to disagree?
Yeah, that's not good either.
Like afraid to share a different...
Right. If you feel like you can't be yourself,
Yeah.
if you can't express your own thoughts and feelings without them getting upset,
Right.
that's a problem.
Okay. And we talked about conflict earlier.
Right.
Are there any like unhealthy ways?
Yeah, like codependency.
Is a big one.
Yeah.
Where you're just constantly giving in to avoid any kind of disagreement
Okay.
or manipulation, like using the silent treatment.
Oh, right.
Or withholding affection to try to get your way.
I see. So it's like those power imbalances.
Power imbalances, yes, those are not good.
Okay. And then what about if the relationship just isn't consistent?
Yeah. Like it's good sometimes and then it's bad sometimes.
Yeah, like it's...
That could be really confusing
Yeah.
and emotionally draining. And you're not getting that sort of
Right.
regular positive interaction.
Not getting your needs met consistently.
Okay, and then just really fundamentally, do you feel safe?
Yes, safety is key.
If you don't feel safe, that's
If you don't feel safe, get out.
get out. Okay, and what if your needs are constantly being
Oh, yeah, invalidation. That's a big one.
invalidated?
Yeah, like you share something that's important to you and they just brush it off or they make fun of you.
Yeah, they minimize.
They minimize it, yeah.
Okay.
That can be really damaging.
Okay, so, we talk a lot about, does the relationship add value
Right.
to your life? What are some signs that
Yeah.
maybe it's not adding value?
Okay, well, I think if you're feeling helpless, if you're super dependent on your partner, if your self-esteem has gone down,
Oh, wow.
if you're constantly anxious about the relationship, those are all signs that maybe it's not the best situation for you.
Okay, and then kind of going back to forgiveness, what if you're holding on to resentments or you're not able to?
Yeah, that's not good either. Because resentment just breeds more resentment, you know?
Right.
And it prevents you from moving forward.
Okay, so what if your partner just doesn't seem interested in working on the relationship?
Like you're trying to communicate, you're trying to make things better, and they're just like, nope, I'm good.
I'm good.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Okay, and what if they just don't seem curious about you?
Yeah, lack of curiosity is a red flag.
Like about your inner world,
Yeah, like they don't ask you questions.
your feelings?
They don't seem interested in what's going on for you. That's not a good sign.
Okay, and then finally, just that lack of accountability.
Oh, yeah. Accountability is huge.
Like if your partner can't
If they can't own their mistakes.
own their mistakes,
Yeah, if they can't apologize, if they can't see how their actions are impacting you,
Right.
that's a problem.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot of stuff, both positive and negative.
Yeah, we have.
So for our listener, how do you actually evaluate your relationship?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think it starts with self-reflection, like really taking some time to think about how you're feeling, what you're needing, what's working, what's not working.
Okay.
And, going back to those things we talked about earlier, like respect, trust, communication, commitment, kindness, all of that.
Oh, yeah.
How's your relationship doing in those areas?
Okay, so beyond those basic things,
Yeah.
what are some other questions our listener can ask themselves?
Okay, well, does your partner encourage you to grow? Do they support your goals, even if they're different from theirs?
Okay.
Do you share goals for the future? Like, are you on the same page about where you want to go in life?
Okay.
Do you want the same kind of relationship? Like in terms of commitment, in terms of lifestyle, all of that.
Okay.
Can you be yourself with them? Do you feel like you can truly relax and be authentic?
All right.
Do you accept them for who they are?
Right.
Warts and all,
Yeah.
Do you give and take equally? Or is it always one person doing all the giving and the other person doing all the taking?
Okay, and then just really fundamentally, is your life better with them in it?
Yeah, that's a big one.
Does the time that you spend together actually have meaning?
Like, do you feel connected? Do you feel loved? Do you feel supported?
And how about trust?
Trust, yeah. Is the trust growing or is it eroding?
Okay. And are there any needs that are not being met?
Yeah, are there things that you're not getting that are really important to you?
Okay.
And on the flip side, are there things that you're not giving that your partner needs?
So once you've done that self-reflection, if you realize, you know what, things aren't quite right,
Yeah.
what can you do?
Well, I think the first step is to communicate with your partner. Like really have an honest conversation about
Yeah.
how you're feeling, what you're needing, what you're noticing.
Okay. And what if that's not possible?
Well, it depends on the situation.
Right.
Right?
Right.
But if there is abuse involved, then you need to prioritize your safety.
Right.
Reach out to someone you trust, get help.
Okay. Expert speaker.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Until next time, everyone, keep exploring, keep connecting, and keep diving deep.